Welcome to the Workers' Annual Memorial Day virtual vigil event.
Hello, friends. It's good to be with you. Let us bow our heads together. Gracious God, we gather because this is what humans do when there is an empty chair at the table. We gather to speak the names of our beloveds, to make sure their stories do not go untold, to lift up their lives in all of their magnificent imperfection. We gather to hold hands, to hug each other's necks, to be with people who share our pain and bear witness to our grief. We gather to give thanks for the time we had with those whose loss we grieve, for their lives, for what they taught us, for the light they shined while they were here. May all that is worth remembering cling relentlessly to our hearts. We rest in the sure and certain hope that you had them before we let them go. Our gratitude is mixed with deep grief. And grief is an unwieldy thing. It has no schedule. It appears when we least expect it, even though at the same time it seems to be a constant companion. Help us to not be consumed by it, Holy One, for that would be to dishonor the ones we love. We have heard it said that those who mourn shall be comforted, and we trust those words to be true. So grant us your peace, Holy One, which really does surpass all our understanding. We gather too so that we can strengthen our resolve. Our hearts are broken, Holy One, at the thought that we may have failed those who we remember today by inattention or callousness. We know your heart is broken too. The only thing to do now is to strengthen our resolve to honor their memory by doing better. So we promise, Holy One, to do everything we can to not lose one more. We will not lose one more because of unsafe workplaces, because we asked someone to complete a job at the risk of their health, or because we cut corners in the name of the bottom line, or because our policies put profit over people and corporations over families. Safety, protection, well-being. These are the words of the world we will work for. We know we must do it. Our children are counting on us. You are counting on us. May we be found faithful. Amen.
Hello, my name is Leslie Osborne. I'm the Oklahoma State Labor Commissioner. I'd like to welcome you all to our ceremonies today to recognize, remember, and commemorate anyone that lost their life on a job in our state this last year. This is an annual holiday observed nationally, and it's something that none of us look forward to because we always hope that we're doing a better job of making sure that people are safe on the job, and that at some point we'll have no need for this kind of memorial at any time. But at this point we do. So I'd like to remind people that it is a God-given right to be able to go to your job, to earn a living for you and your family, to be at a safe workplace where you can return to your family that evening. That is not an unrealistic expectation, and it's something that all employers and employees need to be cognizant of. At the State Department of Labor, we're really known as the safety agency. We do a lot of things across the state to protect citizens, from inspecting amusement park rides to public access elevators to commercial grade hot water heaters and boilers. But one of my most favorite programs is one that provides free safety consultation services to any small business in the state. Any business that can't afford to have their own safety consultants on staff can hire or actually work with us to have us come out and draw safety plans and work with the employees and the employer to make sure that everything is implemented to make sure that your environment is safe when you go to provide a living for your family. If you know of anyone interested in those services, please let us know, because like I said, it's something we do for free, and it's something that a lot of people aren't aware of. So once again, welcome to the ceremony today, and thank you for being here to help us commemorate these lives that were lost.
Every year on April 28th, Workers' Memorial Day, we pause to remember and to recognize the workers who lost their lives as a result of hazards on the job. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics Census of Fatal Occupational Injuries, nearly 5,000 workers died from work-related injuries across the country in 2020. This is far too many, and it does not include the countless workers that we lost due to COVID-19. Each one of these deaths leaves family members, friends, coworkers, and communities to grieve and to mourn and to learn how to live with the loss of a loved one. Workers' Memorial Day as a national day of recognition is extremely important to us at OSHA as people who are dedicated to protecting the safety and health of America's workers. The reality is, though, that every day is a national day of mourning and remembrance for many people. Even though we have made great strides over the past 50 years, 13 people still die every day from work-related injuries in this country. It is for the families, their loved ones, and friends of those lives that we have lost that we have Workers' Memorial Day. It is a time for us, all of us, to listen and to think about workers, not just as workers, but as people. It's time to listen to the family members of those workers that we have lost and understand their stories. One of those stories began on a Tuesday in August of last year when two young men went to work as linemen for a local power company, just as they had done on any other day that week. That day, they were part of the crews that were working to restore power to their communities after a storm had passed through. Both of these young men died by electrocution that day because the necessary controls were not in place to ensure a safe and healthful work environment. Both of those men were only 19 years old. One of those young men was described in a message from his high school as someone whose smile could turn any bad day around. He only wanted those around him to be happy. The other man's high school wrote of him, "The loss of life in any way is always tragic. However, losing someone so kind and genuine at such a young age who is already a productive member of society is almost unfathomable." It is that almost unfathomable tragedy that makes Workers' Memorial Day an important part of our noble mission. This is a time to hear the stories of people who have lost loved ones, to understand the impact of their loss, to remember them, mourn their loss, and to work together to learn what more needs to be done to save lives. In addition to listening to the stories of family members, everyone involved in worker safety, from business owners and supervisor to OSHA leadership, must listen to the voice of workers. They know their jobs and they know what it takes to do their jobs safely. Their work is a central part of their lives, so they are invested in it. Workers want to do their jobs well and safely and go home to their families at the end of their shift. People value safety and health for themselves and their families. It really is and should be a fundamental value that people everywhere appreciate. So we have to all do our part and make sure that workplace safety and health is a core value in every workplace, no matter what you do or where you work. This alignment of these values must be universal. Unfortunately, many workers are at a disadvantage when it comes to workplace safety. For example, almost 23% of the work injury fatalities in 2020 were Hispanic and Latino workers, despite the fact that Hispanic and Latino workers made up just 18% of the workforce in that same year. Every worker, regardless of their language, gender, skin color, age, or citizenship status, has the right to be safe and healthy on their job. Also, many low-wage workers have some of the most hazardous jobs and experience disproportionate rates of workplace injuries. This in turn creates an even greater financial hardship for those workers and their families. Lower income workers who get injured bear much of the cost of workplace injuries, in part because of the limited coverage of worker compensation program. With more than 160 million workers in America, the scale and the scope of the challenge of worker safety and health can seem overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. We know that effective safety and health management systems can keep workers safe while improving business operations. When these systems are implemented for all workers equitably, everyone benefits. Some business models factor workers as part of the equation for profitability of the business without factoring in their safety and health. Workers who do not feel safe and protected from injury and illness may not be as invested and productive on the job as workers who do come to work every day knowing that their employer has done everything possible to create a safe and healthful work environment. The bottom line is that worker health and safety is both good business and the right thing to do. Too many people have died as a result of doing jobs where adequate measures were not taken to protect them. These tragedies have devastated families and communities. On this Workers' Memorial Day, let's all recommit to the work that has to be done to ensure that all workers have a safe and healthful work environment. It is their right. We can only do this, though, when health and safety is established as a core value in every American workplace. So I invite everyone to join us as we work to realize the vision across America so that all workers have a safe and healthful workplace.
Good morning. My name is Dave Andren, and I have the pleasure of serving as a city manager for the city of Mangum in Southwest Oklahoma. I started in the city in September of 2018 and immediately hit the ground running. In my first few days, I started to question everything I was seeing. As a retired military vet, I immediately began to see issues with our organization and cultural mindset of how things were getting done. I found myself constantly asking, why are we doing it this way? Who is our safety coordinator? How often do we meet as staff, as department heads? What about our reoccurring safety training? Who's in charge of the field crews and what are their qualifications? Well, the answer I got over and over and over again was, welcome to Mangum. It seems that the city was suffering from that time-honored tradition of, that's the way we've always done it. I found that our city superintendent was promoted to the interim city manager, and he closed the city superintendent position in an effort to save the city some cash. Then he retired the day after a new city manager was hired. So we had no leadership over the department heads that was focused on skills and safety training. Individual and departmental training was happening, especially in the electric department. Our linemen were constantly training with each other, always opening up their safety training to the rest of the city workers, but no one ever showed. Too busy. It doesn't apply to me. There was no accountability, no personal responsibility to show effort to making safety a real concern. The issue was systemic. Safety days were seen as a drudge. I have real work to do, they would say. During my first full meeting with all the city employees, I emphasized to them that I have a background in operational safety and health. I spent 4 years as a ground safety coordinator and an investigator, and a safety investigator in the Air Force. I take safety very seriously. I believe in taking care of my people so that my people can take care of the mission. I swear I saw eyes rolling into the back of their heads. Safety gets in the way of getting the job done. And that all changed on September 25th, 2018. It was my 5th day in the seat. I was working with a customer on our utility bill when I noticed a light flicker, and I thought, that's odd. Then they flickered again. That's really odd. Then again. Okay, something is really wrong. Well, the city clerk has a police scanner on her desk, and I overheard on the radio that one of our vehicles was on fire. I immediately headed out to the scene to figure out what was going on. What I rolled up to was something that you can never prepare for. The fire department was there, and they were extinguishing a truck, and laying on the ground with a white sheet over him was the body of one of my people. Charlie McLaughlin was born in Oklahoma City, but he was raised in Mangum by his parents, Harley and Cindy Lou McLaughlin. Charlie graduated from Mangum High School in 2010, and he went to work as an equipment operator for M&B Contracting. He stayed with M&B until June of 2018, when he came to work for the city of Mangum. Even though I'd only been on the city for 5 days, I'd grown very fond of Charlie. We met every day to discuss his long-term goals, where he wanted to go with his career, and how things were progressing in the field. Charlie told me about his fiancée, Haley, a wonderful young woman whom he loved and adored with every fiber of his soul. They'd been together for a very long time, and they were eventually going to tie the knot that summer. He told me about his hobbies and his interests: fishing, grilling, carpentry. He was completely remodeling a home down to the studs here in Mangum that he was going to move himself and his new wife into when they got married. But that would never happen. Charlie was a street maintenance worker. He'd been with the city for about 3 months. He was proving himself every day as a hardworking, level-headed young man. Always willing to lend a hand to the other departments, he had a contagious smile. He had a positive attitude that would always light up the room. He was trained to operate most heavy equipment, and was one of the few workers that we had that held a CDL. He had value, not only for his skills, but that he brought to the city, but the friendships that he created with his crew and the love and adoration of his family. Charlie was a human being. He wasn't a number. He wasn't just an employee. He mattered. On the 25th of September, Charlie was working by himself, cleaning up a dilapidated house that had been torn down. He went to pick up the roll-off hauler in order to pick up the dumpster that had been filled with the remains of the house. He called his mom to tell her that he would be over for that evening for dinner. About 20 minutes later, Charlie was loading the roll-off dumpster onto the hauler in an alley when the weight of the dumpster shifted the truck to the left, and the debris cage on the hauler came into contact with the 3-phase line, the high voltage power line, and it killed Charlie instantly. Charlie died alone. He never knew what hit him. He had no idea that there was a problem. Just 1 minute he was there, a beacon of hope and happiness in our organization, and the next he was gone. Now, I spent 21 years in the Air Force, and in that time, I had to make several death notifications to deployed family members. I had to do it several times. Almost always having to tell a service member that their mother, their father, their sister, their brother had passed away. It never gets easy. Having to tell Harley and Cindy that their son would not be coming home is one of the most difficult things I have ever had to do in my life. Parents are not supposed to outlive their kids. Harley lamented that over and over and over. It was the only thing he could say. The truth of that statement hit me hard. I wasn't prepared for it, and I vowed that I would never have to hear it again. The responsibility for his loss, it stops with me. I own it. I live with it every day. And there isn't a single day that goes by that I don't think about him and feel accountable to his parents. They entrusted me with the welfare of his son, and I failed them. I stayed with Charlie all afternoon. We're not allowed to move him until the state medical examiner arrived, and that took 5 hours. I was accompanied that day by one of our local pastors that happened to be there when it happened. Pastor Dodd was fantastic. He voluntarily went with me to notify Harley and Cindy. He spent the afternoon with the family, and he returned to check in with me over the next few days. I was grateful to have him, not only for the support to the family, but to the support for the Mangum family as well. And today he serves as the city's chaplain. And we can call upon him anytime to help us through any future tragedy, though I hope that that never happens. The following day, we held a safety stand down. I closed the city hall and all non-essential operations to talk to my team. We were all devastated. Then new questions started to come up, this time by the employees. How is this possible? How did this happen? Who's to blame? We talked through all of these and gave them time to soak in the gravity of the situation, and then I hit them with the speech. This will never happen again. I immediately went to work fixing the issues that we saw with the city, as well as the issues that were brought up by the PIOSH investigation. We learned from Charlie. We implemented change. Organizationally, I hired a new city superintendent to act as our safety coordinator and to monitor all field services employees while working. He also has the authority to train, mentor, discipline, and to terminate employees who fail to fall in line with these changes. One of the most important changes is that no one works alone. We have implemented a two-person concept, and our team has embraced it as scripture. Had Charlie had a spotter that day, he may still be with us today. All safety policy, operational training is now mandatory for all personnel. And we provide most of our training over 2 days so that when somebody is on shift for 1 day of training, we'll catch them on the second round. Field service workers are now being cross-trained between departments as a means of understanding the hazards and difficulties of their sister departments. Knowledge is power, and we're all seeing the benefit. Now, I can't say that the last 3 years have been without challenges. Sticking with our changes and maintaining an organic cultural shift towards safety first has been difficult, to say the least. We constantly have to slow our guys down, remind them to stay focused on their jobs, doing their jobs safely, instead of running at full steam ahead and bulldozing a path through their days. Part of that issue is due to our steady rotation of personnel. That we have very few of our field crews now were here when Charlie passed. They didn't know him, and his passing is not in the forefront of their minds. We have to keep a constant eye on our safety program, making sure that there's no such thing as too busy for safety training. And I personally crush anyone who rolls their eyes when I ask them where their safety gear is. If we don't, we'll be right back in that same situation with another fallen coworker in an accident that could have been avoided. The end result is an organization that feels more confident in what they're doing. They feel safer because everyone around them is thinking and acting safer. We have a wonderful community that has rallied behind us. They are patient with us when we take our time to do things safely. And most importantly, they will call us out when we fail, because the Mangum community will not tolerate another loss of one of its own. This is Charlie's legacy, his final effect on our organization. He brought us together under a banner of teamwork, taking care of one another and watching each other's backs. We are truly blessed to have him and truly at a loss with him gone.
And now the reading of names by Megan Christie with Oklahoma OSHA and Don Schooler with Oklahoma Department of Labor.
Eduardo Alvarado, Marcelino Arvizu, Deborah Bland, Vicky Bland, Terry Levins, Lonnie Leroy Bowler, David Boggs, Joey Bonds, Taylor Wade Bradford, Chris Sirigliano, Kyle Jeffrey Davis, Billy Dolph, Eleanor Edens, Jose Escobedo, Marty Firestone, Brian Fortune, Abel Garcia, Julie Greg Beaton, Dominic Guliza, Mario Harrison, Ezekiel Hearn, Philip Hughes, Randy Johnson.
Caden Kidd, Donovan Nippenberg, Richard James Maples, Randy Wilford McLemore, Diane Mellinger, Izora Mendoza, Donald Moore, Tina Munson, Edgar Buddy Pelez Jr., Victor Ponce, Michael Simmons Jr., Heston Skaggs, Tammy Smith, Jonathan Smith, Howard Kreitzer Smith III, Osimar Suarez, Blake Stockwell, Robert Sweeney, Shane Thompson, John Lee Trout, Hayden Tucker, Thomas Wells.
Please join us in a moment of silence.
Every year in the United States, thousands of workers are killed or injured on the job. Each accident has a ripple effect extending to the worker's family and community. Today, Kids Chance of Oklahoma joins the families we support in recognizing Workers' Memorial Day. This is an important day for our community to recognize because workers' children are some of the people most impacted by these events. When a parent is lost or harmed in a work-related incident, the future changes for the entire family. Kids Chance scholarships help make it possible for the children of these workers to achieve their educational dreams. On Workers' Memorial Day, we stand with our community of workers and their families, mourning what they have lost and helping to reimagine a different future. By supporting Kids Chance of Oklahoma, you help fund the scholarships that make achieving their educational goals possible. A living memorial to the workers we remember, and you support their entire family as well. If you know a child of any age who may be eligible for a Kids Chance scholarship, please contact Kids Chance of America's Planning for the Future initiative so we can continue to support Oklahoma workers' families for years to come. Thank you.
At this time, it's time to wrap up our ceremony for the year. Once again, I want to remind you that safety is something we should expect. Safety is something that all of us should provide as employers and businesses to the people that come to work for us every day. And we must continue the journey to diminish the numbers of anyone injured or anyone that loses their life on the job in our state. And one life lost per year is too many. So we need to make sure that everything we do can be to ensure that people have a safe workplace, able to go home to their families. And thank you once again for joining us today for this commemoration.